Hello everybody, Alex here bringing you another knife video. This one is on a Gerry McGinnis and Michael Burch collaboration. It is in a flipper configuration and I believe it is a 1 of 5. So first I want to talk a little bit about how I got this. I was originally buying 2 other knives and I was going to send this one back, and I kept it around for a couple extra days, and I had it ready to get boxed up, and then I just ended up not being able to let it go. So it ended up staying with me, although it was originally intended to send back to its home. But I'm going to give you a quick little walk around and talk about it, and yeah. So as I mentioned, this is a collaboration piece. I believe it's a collaboration with Tangent Design Language, and I'm not sure which model from Gerry it kind of takes aspects from, but it certainly looks like a collaboration piece. It's got aspects from both. Starting off at the blade here, we have a hand rub satin, and this one is definitely a satin to be proud of. It rivals some of my other better satins, which I'll probably show you some comparisons just for giggles here in a minute. It's got these mokutai bolsters, sorry for all the dust, and zirconium turbine pivot collars, which is a great design choice. These things are really nice. And then it's got these carbon fiber handles, which I'm a big carbon fiber person, so that was a big win for me. As well as anodized gold titanium liners. This is a liner lock. As well as a zirconium backspacer. You can see it's finished really well there. It's got my fingerprints on it, but fit and finish on it is great. You don't really feel the lines going between these, which is always what you look for in these nicer pieces. And continuing around, we have a mokutai pocket clip. It's got a nice shape. It's very functional there. And because the carbon fiber is smooth, it slides in and out of your pocket pretty easily. We also have gold anodized hardware, which kind of ties together with the gold liners. And it's hard to see, and I'm not sure I'll be able to get the camera to play nice, but it's actually signed in 2 places. It's signed once right here. You can kind of see it right there. And it's also signed right here, which you can kind of see the back end of it there. But it says it's number 3. And it's in CPM 154, or CM 154, sorry. And like I said, I think there's only 5 of these. So I have had a McGinnis before. I had a mini Notorious with orange micarta, zirconium bolsters, and the mini Notoriouses they're pretty small. It has a nice blade shape to it. But I ended up selling it because I'm really a flipper guy, and it was kind of a thumb hole. And on top of that, its handle was so small that it felt like it was really hard to get a grip on, and it just felt like it wasn't sized well for like how I like to use a knife. So I ended up moving it to a home that appreciated it more than I would, and I was pretty happy with the action. The fit and finish was good. It was my first experience with a knife from Gerry, and I did like it, but it just wasn't really for me. So when I was talking to the person I bought this from, I was nervous that I wasn't going to like it because I'm really a action guy, and he had mentioned that the detent was pretty soft. Maybe now's the time to get out, a good time to get out some comparisons. But let me get out the Jeremy Marsh Rockstar, and let me get out the Walter Randolph Wyvern. These were the knives that like I'm kind of comparing some of the top actions to, and it's just that like the detent on them fires really hard. There's pretty much no way that you pick up one of these knives and don't get that action to run. And that's what I really like about flippers, especially custom flippers. I feel like there shouldn't be any way that you can try to actuate the knife and not get it to flip. And so I knew that this guy had a slightly softer detent, and it does, but the action on it is really, really smooth, and the detent is adequate for the geometry of the flipper tab. There's pretty much no way that you can get onto that flipper tab and not get this knife to flick, which is what I want in a flipper. I actually don't notice that the action isn't as hard as some of my other knives because it flips really, really well. Some other things I want to talk about is that I think this is a Gerry thing, but he's got this jimping that goes all the way around and all the way to the flipper tab. It obviously it doesn't like go to the through the lock bar interface, but the stylistic portion of it makes it look like it goes all the way around. And he's kind of got this set up so that you can light switch it really easily, or you can push button it. Which I find that there's not a ton of knives out there that you can do both on really easily. Usually, I'd say flipper tabs are like either one or the other. So like we can look at the Gerry Marsh here. This is probably slightly more light switchy, but based on how big the flipper tab is, you kind of preload like this corner, which I guess there's a little bit of force in both directions for a light switch or a push button. So yeah, this one is kind of characterized that way. I think a lot of the ones that you see with these like flat tops versus like a pointed top, these are telltale for push buttons because like I don't know anybody that goes around the jimping on the front of the flipper tab to try and actuate it. Now, again, the Walther, its action is so good that you could do that, but it's pretty clearly a push button, in my opinion. Maybe we'll get out one more. Lee Williams, Kickstop Adventurer Tonto. Love this piece, action incredible. But you can see, like, he's got the jimping right there on the front. You know this is a light switch piece. Like, it doesn't matter how hard you push down on the top of that to try and rocket it out. Like, you don't need to do that. The light switch is the way to go. The light switch is how the action was designed. The light switch is where the jimping is. Like, it makes sense. So yeah, so the action on this, not like a rocket ship, but it's very adequate. And I love this configuration. I'm a big carbon fiber guy, as you can see. Carbon fiber exists in other knives in my collection. I'm not a huge like Mokutai guy, although you can see I have other knives with Mokutai on it, or Damascus. But it doesn't tend to be where my preference goes because I don't like damaging it. And you can see that there's a couple of small snail trails on it, or there are, but they're hard to see. And this knife does get carried and stuff, so it happens. But I don't feel like it hides wear very well because in order to get the pattern like well seen in Mokutai, you tend to have to polish it, and polished metals just scratch really easily. I don't tend to like polishing. Like it looks nice, and there is technically functionality in terms of corrosion prevention, but to be honest with you, nobody using polishing is prioritizing its corrosion resistance performance and over just how nice it looks. And that's totally fine, but I use my knives and I don't like them looking destroyed just because I'm using them, which is also tends to be why I don't lean towards satins first, is because like no matter what you do, you get marks on them. And it looks good on camera, but in the right lighting, you can definitely see where it's got marks on it. So speaking of satins, this is probably one of my other like popular satin knives on Instagram. I got a couple of people that mention how nice they are, and I think that these satins are pretty comparable. Like the satins are really clean. They both have a lot of like reflectivity to them. Maybe the Walther is a smidge higher, but yeah, it's hard to complain. Like look at these are incredible. Let me pull out maybe one other satin knife. This is a Steve Skiff Culprit. give you a comparison on that satin. So yeah, you can also see that Steve polishes the flats of his blade, so you can see my window and the reflection there. Get this out of the way. So yeah, it's got great finishing to it. Its fit and finish is some of the best I think I've ever seen. Gerry and Michael, I'm not sure who did what on this knife. They also went ham with the finishing details because you can see really high satin / polishes on surfaces of the blade, like on the spine here. It's perfectly rounded. It's got this really crazy like swedge and cutout, and it's kind of a drop point, and it's got a compound grind with this recurve portion and then this more traditional area. The lines on it are great. The grind on it is great. I wouldn't say that you could use this as a choil because it is sharp all the way to the back there, and I don't see anybody using this knife as a cutting tool like this. There's only 5 of these that I know of. I think there was only ever going to be 5. And so I'm not going to promise that you're ever going to be able to see this, and I don't know how the other users use it, but I don't see this being a choil. Like, it's just not big enough. Maybe my fingers are just too fat, but I got medium, large size hands depending on what glove I make. And this knife isn't super big, but it does fit well in the hand. No hot spots. It's kind of slippery because the carbon fiber has a pretty high polish on it, and the Mokutai is obviously not textured or anything. And because it tapers down to the handle, like, you feel like you could slide out of it, but like the clip kind of gives you traction in the middle of it, and all at the same time, like, you're not really going to be hard using this, or I'm not. I assume the other users are probably not out there bushcrafting with their McGinnis Burch collabs. The jimping is not crazy functional. It provides a little bit of traction. I prefer this over nothing. Like, I've got other knives that have probably slightly more functional traction, and then I've got knives that have basically no jimping, and I prefer some jimping over no jimping, and I prefer functional jimping over just jimping that's kind of functional. But this does its job. I think based on the use case of this knife, most people will be fine. Most people will be fine just using it with what it's got on there. But the fit and finishing on this is second to none. You can see that when you disengage the lock bar and you roll the blade closed, you can see the gap from the liner lock to the scale vanishes, and it's perfect. Like, there was no room to spare at all on the finishing of that knife, and I am really, really impressed with how it was done. Like, these are both really talented makers. I know Michael has been experimenting a lot in the art knife world. He does a lot of like multi-inlays, a lot of mother of pearl work. I'd say the shape of his knives still reminds me of a tactical folder and a lot of his really popular models, but I'd say like the direction that he's been leaning towards recently has been more focused on creating really intricate designs. Gerry, I think, has always been kind of more of a tactical folder traditional guy where he still uses good material choices, and he still experiments with different colors and different processes, and he tries new things. But I wouldn't say that he's like quite leaning towards the art side as much of knives as still the tactical side, just kind of expanding on what flavors he's been doing. So this is a perfect example of what I think they were doing at the time. I think this knife was built around 2018, which now, because I can't really see in there with the lighting, I'm not sure what day exactly, but I think it was 2018. So back then they were both still doing mostly tactical folder type stuff. And they did such a great job blending in the dark zirconium with the dark scales, with the dark backspacer. It works well together. They have a little pop of color to keep it interesting, and then they have a gold pivot with gold hardware and gold liners. and it's just such a great combination. You can see they also have a little bit of jimping on the liner lock, which does help give you grip in the right areas, and it's not abrasive at all. Like some jimping is like tear your hand up, and this jimping is like it's right where it needs to be, and it's nothing more and it's nothing less. I can't remember if I mentioned, but this knife is on washers, and I have one other knife on washers. It's currently getting some spa, but I have a custom division Shirogorov Hati. It's division number 72, I think. And it is also on washers. And I have to say, I've been super, 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 super impressed with how some makers can put knives on washers and the action on them is just as good as bearings. They're not as fast as bearings because there's more surface area, which means there's always going to be more friction. But like, it just impresses me how some of the makers are able to come up with these actions that are really smooth, and they work all the time. And I don't know if Gerry or if Michael was responsible for the action tuning and choices on washers or bearings, but if any of the other ones flip like this one, I know it's a treat because this thing is awesome. This is also probably one of my more exciting pieces to share with you because a lot of the pieces I have, I wouldn't say they're common, but like you could go to any number of dealers and find a Wyvern or a piece from Walter Randolph. You could go to a couple of dealers that I know of currently selling a piece from Lee Williams. There's only one that I know of that's selling a Tonto Adventurer, although it's not in Damascus and the carbon fiber is not the same. And I don't know what pivot rings it's got on it, but you could get something pretty close to this. Jeremy Marsh, his stuff is kind of rare, and his flippers, I don't see a lot of them selling often. They come up every now and then. I wouldn't say they're like super crazy hard to get. You can join his Facebook group and you'll also probably find them. But Jeremy Marsh's flippers are not crazy common. But this guy, being that there's only 5 of these, the chances that you run across one of these has got to be near zero. I don't know. I know a few people who have posted in Gerry McGinnis's Facebook group that have had these. I don't know who owned this one before. I bought this from a dealer that I had been working with quite a bit this year to purchase my knives. But I don't know where some of them went, and I've never seen them posted on social media. I don't think that you'll probably ever have a chance to feel this in your hands. So I'm really excited to share with you this piece in particular because I think it's such a great execution. It's got great action. I love the material choices they did. I'm just really pleased to own this in my collection. And if you ever have the opportunity to buy one of these, I would probably do it because of how rare they are. I think that both Gerry and Michael's work is like it's probably trusted enough to be bought sight unseen. Like you probably don't need to handle it before you're ready to buy it. And even if you did and you didn't like it for whatever reason, you can probably sell it because both Michael and Gerry have quite the cult following, and somebody would want it from you. So I don't think you're taking a huge risk by getting into their work. So that being said, I think I've talked about everything that I'd like to talk about. Action, superb. Material choices, superb. Fit and finish, superb. You don't feel lines between the bolsters. You don't feel lines between the backspacer. I already mentioned you don't see spaces between the liner lock. I already mentioned their unique design choices here with the turbine pivot collar, the very unique blade shape. Functional handle. This one's also a little bit wider than my other McGinnis was. Michael's work tends to be pretty thick, maybe closer to the Marsh or the Randolph. So I don't know that it's follows his design language quite as much, but fits in the hand great, and I'm really happy with this guy. So I look forward to continue sharing this over my knife collecting journey and making comparisons to other knives. So thank you very much, everybody, and have a good one.